He does not have the necessities to be a coach. War.
That was not a very good phone call. Kevin, sorry about that, man. Step it up. You can do better. You can do better. I need you to do better, Kevin. All right, back to USC for a minute. And I was jockeying the Trojans pretty hard. And I thought I had good reason to. They had a good run last year. They gave Duke plenty last year. They're better this year. They're a physical team. They're an athletic team. And they were primed for a run. And I thought that not only would they challenge Duke, I thought they were the team to beat in that region. Then they come out and they get beat in the first round. If this is such a great defensive basketball team, how do they give up 93 points to a 13 seed? If it's such a physical basketball team again, how is Stuart Hare jamming on them, walking right through the lane to do so at the game's most critical juncture? If Henry Bibby is such a great coach, I think the guy is a good coach. What's he doing starting Greg Gunther and Robert Hutchinson when you're down by 9 coming out of the locker room? He said that he was trying to send a message to Blumenthal and Jerry Dupree. You got your second best player, arguably your most athletic player. You're down by 9. You're in the NCAA tournament. That's not the time to send a message. How do you put those guys on the bench? By the time you finally got them back in there, the 9-point deficit was an 18-point deficit, and they fell behind by 19. Yeah, sure, they came all the way back and they forced OT, but how much energy did they exert doing that? And they should have been in that position. That's not the time to send a message. That was a very disappointing effort. And I'm sure Steve Lavin is the happiest guy alive right about now. How about the WCC, the mid-majors, talking about how they were screwed, they were jammed, the system doesn't work, it's time to rethink it. You know, they didn't make much of a stand yesterday. Hard to make an argument for them when they go out the way they did, especially Gonzaga. I mean, that could not look worse than it does. One football note, Warwick Dunn is going to be an Atlanta Falcon. Got a fat contract. Atlanta Falcon ownership is changing things up, shaking things up. They're throwing huge money at Warwick Dunn. Now you've got a backfield of Michael Vick and Warwick Dunn. They're not going to win a Super Bowl, but that's pretty exciting, especially from what we've seen from the Falcons. Pretty much everybody there is excited about it except Jamal Anderson. When Jamal Anderson was asked what he thought about Warwick Dunn coming in, quote, "I like Warwick. I have a lot of respect for him, but I think he's more effective as a complimentary back. That's just my opinion." I wonder why Jamal thinks that Warwick Dunn's better as a complimentary back. To that argument, though, that's always been the rap. Throughout his entire career, there's always been this question about Warwick Dunn. Is he a change of pace, third down, scat back, or is he a guy that can carry the ball 20 or 25 times a game? Warwick Dunn's take has always been, don't tell me I'm not that guy until you give me the ball 20 times a game, and then let's find out. But new Atlanta Falcon ownership is getting after it. They're trying to create some excitement, and I can appreciate that. If you want to jump in on that, go ahead. Got open phone lines for you. Go ahead and make use of them. Other things I want to cover. Jason Williams, more bad news for him. Not as bad as a limo driver getting blasted and him trying to cover it up, but bad news nonetheless. Also, former Dallas Cowboy great Tony Dorsett will join us next hour. His talking hand fit into his glove. It's just a question that came to my mind. Bryce in St. Louis. You know what, Bryce? That's a very good question. And frankly, I will be responsible enough to answer it this way. I don't freaking know. I have no idea. Dear Jim, what about Mike Tremblay and 4 digits to be named later? P.S. Does Alphonse Seca have to put 2 fingers through that finger hole in his glove? See, that might answer that question that way. Kevin in Austin. James, I thought Dan Dicko had a great postseason game last night. Sincerely, Barry Bonds. Richard in El Paso. Yeah, Gonzaga's not going to win too many tournament games shooting 26%. You know what, though? Credit to Wyoming. They did it. They put the time in. They were hungrier. They were better prepared. They wanted it worse. Dear Jim, parting Gagne out makes a lot of sense. Unless, of course, anybody needs a right arm, then his is worthless. JC in Denver. Dear Jim, please refrain from further Eric Gagne for parts takes. You're going to end up voiding the warranty on that microphone, giving yourself those violent tongues. Plus, you put my job in jeopardy due to unprofessional laughter. Michael in Orlando. You know, that was a pretty funny take. I have to give myself credit. Because I have not been giving myself nearly enough credit. Dear Jim, if you're using Eric Gagne for parts, can I have his liver, Wade Boggs? Mike. Dear Jim, that was brilliant. 24 digits, Gagne behind the garage for parts, sandwich bag, that was worth a double tongue. That clones was a double tongue. I have to chase the mic across the floor. Hold on a minute. Okay then. That was a double tongue. Hold on a minute, I gotta put this bad boy back together. I don't want one of those greasy engineers to come in here and help me. All right then. We go this time to Rene in Rochester. What's up, Rene?
Rome.
Rene.
How are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. You know, I'd love to see a little 12 roll over 5 in that Creighton, Florida game. It's pretty close right now. I just wanted to touch on a couple hysterical supposed sports happenings this week, which of course you've been talking about. Let me start with that little has-beens and hoes. I mean, celebrity boxing matchup Wednesday night. Jim, I said it here on your show after she pounded her ex-husband Jeff that Tanya Harding is a man. I mean, Mike Tyson, you know, if you were smart, oh, wait a minute, you're Mike Tyson, you know, you would put that biatch up in a D.C. trailer park, or better yet, y'all know they probably got a trailer park named after Tanya in Memphis. You know, you add her to your not even Springer-worthy entourage and have her on your ticket as opener against a tag team of, say, I don't know, Bonaducci and Williams, and then maybe definitely add to your next much-anticipated freak show. So, Joni from NoCal, I'm sure this won't rekindle our warm friendship, but now do you know why I promptly declined your offer to approach Fox with the idea of maybe you and me duking it out for that circus? I mean, have some respect for yourself, girl. Oh, Rome, speaking of respect or no respect to the Ruben Riveras and Daryl Strawberries and all the other nimrods of the sports world who are too stupid to realize their gift, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, when are you going to realize that if you're lucky enough to be a pro athlete, the media, myself, my kids, you know, we're watching you, you idiots. I mean, Rivera, you are done. No team is ever going to touch you if you ask me. And Straw, I mean, boo-hoo, you were abused. You know, you're going to lose the last fan you had left, your wife, because you couldn't even keep it in your pants. In America, we wouldn't have had to suffer through yet another Sports Center appearance of your sorry little horizontally striped ass if you would have just grabbed a skin flick or maybe a D-Cup magazine or something, closed your door, pet the pony, and gone about your joke of a day pretending that you're recovering. Rome, I can't take him anymore. I am out.
Late. Yeah, Daryl's not going to get a whole lot of sympathy right about now. I can remember defending this guy to the point where I had some pretty heated conversations with people who would say, why do you care? Why do you back this guy? Because he has a disease, he's fighting cancer, he's fighting an addiction that he can't beat, and Daryl's not a bad guy. He's not a bad seed. He's not an evil guy. But at some point, how much is too much? And we've hit that point. You can only burn those around you so many times before you finally say, you know what, enough is enough. You're on your own.
With Duke, way to go.
Service Department, if you think you'll ever see anything better than what we witnessed on Fox a couple of nights back, you are crazier than Lois Lane. First we get Bonaducci, the tough guy who's on that show with guys talking about their feelings, beating the fat off the tall Brady kid. He beat the fat off the tall Brady kid. Nothing embarrassing about that. Oh, except seeing the Brady kid with his shirt off. And at the end, we get to hear little Partridge talk about how he spent the 80s in a daze and laugh about it. Yeah, good one, Danny. Then we get to see two legendary criminals. Did you see Willis when he was shadowboxing with his cap on Corky style? Nothing embarrassing about that. And we get to see Vanilla Ice throwing punches like a 4-year-old girl that just had her candy cane stolen. Nothing embarrassing about that. And how about him getting his ass kicked by some guy who looked like he'd been out all night with Daryl Strawberry? Then the main event that the whole world has been waiting for. Tanya v. Paula. Look, Tanya got new puppies. That's sweet. Wow, she's hot. She's wearing the Stars and Stripes. Look, I'm Canadian, but I've never been more proud to have the USA as my neighbor. Okay, so Paula Jones had the giggles before the match. I'm waiting for Tanya to end that with a swift hit with a hubcap, but I guess it just wasn't my night. Paula runs away the last 2 rounds and keeps turning her back. You can see the frustration settling in on Tanya's face because she's used to brawling with boyfriends. Thankfully, the ref stops the fight when Paula refuses to fight back. And even more thankfully, Tanya punches her one more time and talks a little smack. I'm not sure why you find all this embarrassing. I just can't wait until the show goes nightly so we can see Anna Nicole Smith take on Margot Kidder, Emmanuel Lewis take on Gary Coleman, Rick James take on Joey Ramone. Again, I ask, what's embarrassing about taking 6 crackheads and throwing them into a ring to take each other out with sick bolo shots with a sellout crowd of 178 people cheering them on? What a great age we live in. War Texas Rangers in 2002. War Celebrity Boxing 2, 3, and 4. Brian in Calgary. This email reads, Hey Gauchos, now that the UCSB basketball dream has been shattered, can we please get back to debauchery in Santa Barbara stories? I visited the all-you-can-guzzle mecca for a spring break, which is funny in that how does a drink fest qualify as a break from the drink fest that was my college career? Anyway, Jim, my friend and I'm going to stop right in the middle of this email. How many people have sent emails that read, I once went to Santa Barbara. My friend had me over to a party at Santa Barbara. Anyway, Jim, my friend and I came out from Colorado about 10 years ago and went right to the beach where we made friends with both students and beach bums, aka homeless with tans. With a few students as our tour guides, we made our way up and down State Street and consumed our body weight in cheap booze until the one credit card that we had between us maxed. Yes, our lodging, food, gas, basically survival money till we got back to Colorado and the dorm was gone in one night. 2 fuzzy days later, we were in this place called Hobo's Jungle, a strip of littered and urine-soaked cesspool between the railroad tracks and the ocean somewhere near Ventura. Our tan homeless pals hooked us up until my buddy finally called his sister for gas money to get our sorry drunk asses home. We limped into Fort Collins, and the morning classes resumed with physical and emotional scars and livers that looked like lime jello shots. Of course, we were back the next year with a full car. Greg and Fort Collins. These guys ran out of money and had to live amongst the bums. All right, they're on a double OT now. Creighton, Florida. Last email. Dear Selection Committee Van Smack, I totally disagree with you. Just because the likes of USC and Gonzaga were dismissed from the tournament in the first round, it does not mean that the seedings of 3 and 6 respectively were deserved or undeserved. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I thought the seedings were more of an acknowledgement of the season's accomplishments, not a predictor of tournament performance. Gonzaga, win or lose, still deserved higher than a 6 seed. The issue is separate and distinct from losing yesterday. The flip side is that UNC Wilmington can't argue that they deserved a higher seed for beating USC. The regular season to date did not warrant it. Kansas nearly slipped up to a 16th seeded team. Now, if they did, it does not change the fact that up until the tournament, they pretty much have done everything required of a number 1 seed. It was earned. No two ways about it. The seeding process is to reward those teams who perform better during the regular season with seemingly an easier path to the regional final. But simply because the team fails to capitalize on it does not mean the seed was not earned prior to it. Gonzaga still deserved to be higher than a 6 seed and an easier, quote-unquote, first-round game. In theory, they could have been a number 3 seed and still been beat. But neither changes the fact that this season was worthy of higher recognition than a 6 seed given. Take his royal darkness, for example. If there was ever an email smack-off, which there should be, he would be the number 1 seed. He could never be upset, but deserves the number 1 seed for past email dominance. He went undefeated in his division and breezed through his conference tournament. Actually, he deserves to be seeded number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because no one else is even close since Jeff in Isla Vista and the brothers DeTola retired. As a matter of fact, he hasn't been giving himself enough credit lately. Maybe he should start sticking miniature envelope icons on his computer for every great email he sends in. Yes, I will recommend it to him. Sincerely, Dark Gable. Time for an email smack-off. All right, that's from Dark Gable. Greg and Fort Collins about how he nearly died on one trip to Santa Barbara. And Brian in Calgary. The Calgary email wins on the celebrity boxing reset.
And those gutty little gauchos nearly pulled it off. But I knew we were in trouble when Elgin Baylor picked us to get to the finals against Alcorn State. But seriously, our guys showed a lot of heart out there, certainly more than USC showed. I guess we're just lucky Cal State Fullerton wasn't in the tournament. Talk about your karma. Even the nicks and cuts of a blade wouldn't stop the fighting pizza delivery boys of CSF from standing on the balcony of their motel room and dropping rocks on unsuspecting passers-by. Hey, instead of screwing around with the course at Augusta, why don't they put a time limit between shots so we don't have to sit there for 10 minutes watching the bride of Chucky, Sergio Garcia, wiggling around like the Rain Man on crystal meth before every shot. And you know, Romy, when it comes to getting away with murder, Jason Williams is not exactly what you would call a criminal mastermind, is he? Hell, he makes Ray Caruth hiding in the trunk of his car look like Professor Moriarty. And agreeing to go along with his ridiculous suicide story for even a minute is about the worst decision the Harlem Globetrotters have made since they showed up on Gilligan's Island and got posterized by a team of evil robots. Evil robots? Is there any other kind of robot? That's like saying scared coward, stupid dumb guy, or better yet, boring Globetrotter game. But as long as I'm on Gilligan's Island, how about that professor? Now, there was a guy who was gifted in the creativity structure. He could take a coconut and some bamboo and turn it into a watch, radio, TV, washing machine, VCR, hey, pretty much anything they needed except for something that would actually help them get off the stinking island. Hey, too bad he wasn't that creative with the ladies. I mean, dude is stranded on a deserted island with a couple of nuggets